Welcome to the Tangle with Kyle Ridley. Happy May, new month for you. Have a roundup of great guests on the way, including today's guest. He's a very funny guy. I'm a newer fan of his, Rory James. He has a new special out. It's called Acquired Taste. You can get it on streaming platforms. It's free on Amazon Prime if you have that. That's where I watched it. He's a big character. I really enjoyed this conversation, and we actually have a lot in common, especially our interests in our favorite TV shows and the women that we love. So I'm looking forward to you hearing this conversation. As far as what I've been tangled in, I had a busy weekend with friends. My partner and I hosted a big movie night on Saturday, which was nice. I think there was 13 or 14 of us. And we ordered pizza and had, chips and dip. We played a little Cards Against Humanity. And then we went to the basement and we watched a classic, Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. I did take a vote, and most people voted for that, including me, because, you're never going to not get Lisa Kudrow when you're around me. And that's one of those movies that I can almost repeat word for word. I've seen it so many times over the last 28 or so years since it was released, and I'm looking forward to that sequel that's been talked about for quite some time now, but it's apparently happening. And now that Lisa Kudrow is in the spotlight with the comeback final season, I'm hoping that we get more of her revivals on the way. I also went to a really cool event with my partner in DC. He was invited to attend a house party to benefit Out in National Security, ONS. I had never heard of this nonprofit, and I encourage you to look it up. You can find their information on Instagram if you search Out in National Security. You can also learn more at outinnationalsecurity.org. And because this isn't my expertise, my partner is ex-Air Force, and I want to get it right. So Out in National Security is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering queer national security professionals. We build community, secure equality of opportunity, and promote allyship by taking a broad view of the national security enterprise and bridging organizations of excellence to other like-minded groups. Obviously, there's a lot going on in national security right now. It's tough out there, and I was really happy to support this organization and hear the incredible speakers speak to this elite group that I was fortunate to participate in. So definitely give that a look when you have time, outinnationalsecurity.org. Other things I'm tangled in, I still have my foster dog, a little over 2 weeks now, and I have completely fallen in love with him. There was a family that was interested. That did not work out, sadly, and it was really sad because I know the family, so I was hoping I'd be able to keep him in my life moving forward and watch him and all of that, but not meant to be, and it has to be right, but he's right by my side right now. So loving him, Oliver. He's a sweet, great Pyrenees golden retriever mix, and he's come such a long way in just 2 weeks. So I will keep him close and cuddle him until he finds his forever family, as it should be. And then I've been talking about giving a roundup of the TV and movies that I've been watching lately, as I typically do. It's been a while since I've done a rundown, so let's go through some. I will do this rapid fire. I watched The Miniature Wife on Peacock. I watched all 8 or 10 episodes, however many of them there were. And I didn't love it, but it kept me entertained. It was kind of one of those shows that I just kind of binged while I did housework and scrolled on my phone and did some other work. So if you want something lighthearted and simple and, fun to look at, and Elizabeth Banks and Matthew McFadyen, nothing really negative to say. It's just, it is what it is. And it's a fantastical, escape into the world of a miniature wife who accidentally gets shrunk by her husband. As far as movies go, I watched Is This Thing On with Laura Dern and Will Arnett, and I really enjoyed it. It's about a midlife man who's going through a divorce and ends up in a comedy club and, finds a love of stand-up comedy. And I have so many comedians on this show. I think that that movie has gotten mixed reviews from comedians, but I enjoyed it. And again, fantastic acting, and directed by Bradley Cooper, who obviously has proved himself as an astounding filmmaker. Also watched a really sweet movie called A Little Prayer with Jane Levy, I'm sorry, I don't know, and David Strathairn. And it's a very quiet, simple movie where it's a small town family. They live in the country, and David Strathairn's character finds out that his son is cheating on his wife, played by Jane Levy, and just sort of the delicate approach he has to take with her and sort of warn her that this isn't really the path that she should be on. I don't want to give too much away, but I would definitely encourage you to watch that. I think I watched that on Amazon as well. Rapid fire, I also watched a really sweet movie with Alan Cumming called Drive Back Home. Definitely recommend that. He plays a gay man in the 1970s, and has to do a road trip with his brother after he was arrested in Canada for lewd conduct. Incredible performances all around there. Also binged watch a small little series called Slip with Zoe Lister-Jones. She wrote and created and I think directed it a couple years ago. I think it was on the Roku channel, but it is available to stream right now for free, and I encourage you to check that out because she's a brilliant writer, director, and very interesting mind, and I found it to be an interesting watch. She basically falls into new dimensions, different realms of humanity when she has an orgasm and sort of has to find her way back to reality. That's the short of it. TV. Watched Nikki Glazer's new special, Good Girl. Love, love, love her. She can do no wrong. I saw her do this live last year, and it's changed a bit from the live show, as comedians do. Definitely recommend that. I'm watching Margot's Got Money Problems, or is it Money Troubles, with Michelle Pfeiffer and Elle Fanning and Nick Offerman and Nicole Kidman. Really enjoying that. I'm 3 episodes in. I'm also watching Half Man from the creator of Baby Reindeer. I've heard it described as the feel-bad show of the year. It's true, but the writing is incredible. The acting is incredible. It's really gripped me. I'm looking forward to the rest of the episodes. Of course, I'm watching The Comeback. 1 episode left. I'm savoring every minute of it. And I also watched Dan Levy's new show, Big Mistakes. Of course I did, because Laurie Metcalf is in it, and she gives a stellar performance, award-winning if you ask me. The show itself, not my favorite type of show, the plot as far as like crime comedies go, but I'll watch anything that Dan does. I'll watch everything that Laurie does, and I did watch every single episode. It kept my attention, to say the least. As did Rory James's new special, Acquired Taste, which you can catch on streaming platforms. So let's go ahead and get to this conversation. I really enjoyed it. I hope you do as well. Here is the hilarious, outspoken, Boston-bred, Acquired Taste, Rory James. Excited to speak with you. I figure we're going to talk about comedy, pop culture, and then some gay stuff.
All right, let's do it.
Perfect. Well, I watched your special recently, Acquired Taste. We'll get to that, but I sort of like to start at the beginning. Let's bring you back to Boston, where you grew up. And it's a tough, aggressive culture to be brought up in. You mentioned that in your special. So how do you think Boston shaped you, especially as a gay kid and a comedian?
Wow. Well, that is a great question. First of all, thank you for watching the special, Acquired Taste. It's streaming now on Amazon and it's on Apple TV. What's also I'm excited about is that it's out as an album as well. So you can listen to it on Spotify and Apple Music. So it's out there. And we do talk about the Boston of it all. And where are you from originally?
The DC area.
Okay. So, yes, it is true. The reputation of Boston, particularly as I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, was not particularly friendly to the gay kid. And so I think it made me feel like I had to be tough. And I think it brought out like an audacity in me that I don't know if I would have been that way otherwise, because I sort of had to be, I was like, oh, I felt like an alien, when I was growing up there. And maybe that's something that gay kids feel growing up anywhere. But there are certain aspects of my personality as I got older. I was like, oh, I do have Boston traits. I am pretty aggressive. I am pretty confrontational. I am pretty direct. But as it relates to the gay of it all, there was a lot of like not acknowledging it because it wasn't an option. It was the worst thing you could be. That was the messaging. So I was really sort of oblivious to being gay until I always flag my sexual awakening as being Justin Timberlake's Rolling Stone cover from 2003. Herb Rich shot it, and it to this day does it for me. And I remember being like, I am looking at this for too long, and I might want to look at it again later. And that was like the first time where I was like, ow. But like, it's sort of, I never thought I was in the closet ever. Like, I thought women were beautiful, and I loved Mariah Carey, but like, I think growing up where I grew up, it just sort of wasn't an option. And so it wasn't until I was like 19 that I even realized that I was gay,
Yeah, and you mentioned in the special also that some people are surprised because you're not very gay presenting, but you mentioned that you were also bullied a bit, weren't you?
Well, yes. Yes. So that's also obviously like a touchy subject, and it's just in terms of what is gay acting, you know what I mean, and what is, and I did want to address it, and the reason that I did, is because a lot of times comedians when they come out on stage, particularly early in their careers, when people don't know them, they'll do a joke like, "I know what you're all thinking, dot dot dot." You know what I mean? It's like based on what you're seeing about your first impression of me. Like, I never could write those jokes because there wasn't consensus in the audience, and that was true growing up as well. When I did finally start letting people know I was banging dudes, 50% of people were like, "Well, yeah," and 50% of people in my life were like, "I'm sorry, what?" And so the same was true with comedy audiences, and so it took me a while to figure out how to talk about gay on stage because I wasn't a cliche, but I also knew that there was something interesting about that. But then it ended up being super healing because I went from not talking about it at all to doing like full on dick jokes on stage. Into the universe, on stage, into the universe. And what was so interesting to me was I thought it was going to alienate the straight guys. I thought they weren't going to, because that's who was alienating me in Boston growing up. But in comedy, they're the first ones to laugh. And I think my theory is it's because my sense of humor is very sophomoric and adolescent, and I think it taps into a side of them where they're like, "Oh wait, he's just as dumb and horny as I am. We have more in common than I thought." So it was kind of a journey because like a lot of the guys who probably would have bullied me back then like my comedy.
Yeah, and you said it was half and half as far as people who suspected it and people who were surprised. What was it like with family? They always say like, parents always have an inkling. Did your family have an inkling?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I'm sure. I think my brother would probably say yes. My brother is the straightest man in the world, and so I think he could probably sense it. But I will say, so my dad died 6 years ago, so he didn't really get to see a lot of the public facing super aggressive gay jokes. But my mom was at the taping of my special, which surprised a lot of people. And she's super cool about stuff like that because in my family growing up, it was very much like as long as it's funny, you could say anything. You know what I mean? Like as long as and like who could say the most shocking thing? But I will say though, at first, my mom she was like, "I don't know what's true and what's not true in your act." You know what I mean? And I was like, "Well, that's not the point. It doesn't. It doesn't matter." And then once she realized that, she was cool. And I do get that a lot too when people are like, "Is everything you're saying, did that all happen?" And my standard response to that is, "I'm not writing my memoirs. These are jokes. This is writing that's involved." But the secret is, there's a lot more truth to it than I would like to pretend. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, my family's really cool about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned you have humor in your family. So were you the comic relief or was it all around you lived in a funny household growing up? And on the other side of that, with the bullying and stuff and not coming out till later, was comedy a defense mechanism for you or was it just a natural, you're the funny guy?
Well, I will say that my brother, the straightest man in the world, is also way funnier than me. He just doesn't need the attention. I don't know if I'll ever be able to really separate like how much of gay trauma impacted like the desire to be a performer. I mean, I think like a lot of gay kids are natural performers. Like that's just kind of part of gayness. but I don't think I was definitely not the funniest person in the house. But what was the second part of the question?
Was it a defense mechanism at all?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And because also like I was a late bloomer in a lot of ways. Like there was acne trouble. I was so skinny. I grew like up but not out. So I was like a giraffe of a teenager. And I was like, I thought I was supposed to be cuter. Like this isn't right. Like there's something here. But I always could lean on making people laugh, even when like nobody wanted to date me or like other stuff. I was like, it's interesting. I was back visiting my mom and I went through some of like the shit I had written in high school and we had to do some assignment where we had to journal. And I'm like a ninth grader. And I was like, the only thing that I know about myself is that I can make people laugh. And it was so weird to like see it in my own handwriting, which by the way is like so much better then than it is now because we don't fucking write things. But it was like, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you like get to like revisit your younger self and you're like, oh my God, like, I don't know. It's almost like I got to like go back in time a little bit.
And was comedy, did that bug get you early on? Was that always the like vision to become a comedian or did that hit later in life?
I got a late start to comedy. I was in the music business when I first got out of college. Like, I was all over the place. And it was through being in the music business around people who took themselves really seriously that I was like, oh, I'm in the wrong room. I'm supposed to be making fun of these people. So I did a web series based on my experience working at these record labels, and that's sort of how it started. But I really didn't get going in stand up until my mid 20s. And, you know, there was time where I was like, fuck, that was wasted. Like, I should have gotten started sooner. Like, I could have been further along sooner. But I think with stand up, something that's beautiful about it is like, you don't really, I mean, there are exceptions, but you don't really have much to talk about until your late 20s. And I think that if I was doing material, if I was doing stand up when I was younger, I would be embarrassed by my acts now. You know what I mean? And I feel like I want to go out. I want to do it until I die. I want to die on stage like Joan Rivers and these comics who into their 80s, they've never been funnier. And it was interesting. I was listening because I knew you and I were going to speak today. I was listening to your episode with Sherry Shepherd that you had on your podcast, who is one of my idols from forever ago. And she's somebody whose like tenacity I am like so in awe of. And it was funny because I was like, oh, he had Sherry on. I got to listen to that. And then and then like seconds into it, you reference your obsession with The View, specifically the period that Rosie was on. And I was like, we are not going to run out of things to talk about because I am so of that time and that generation and that was appointment television. And so, yeah, I think for me, like, I'm so much funnier than I was even a few years ago. And I'm really focused on getting better at it and peaking way down the line, you know?
Yeah, well, you've been doing stand-up for a decade, a little more than a decade now. And I've always heard like it takes 10 years to really become a true stand-up, hone your craft. So you're there. So full force ahead, I assume. But as far as like comedic North Stars, you mentioned Sherry. I heard on your podcast that you like Judy Gold, who I love, who's also been on this podcast.
She's been so nice to me.
She's just the best. Who else have you been inspired by, whether it was your mid-20s when you first started getting on stage or teens?
Well, shout out to Judy Gold because I used to do on social media these impressions of her because I always identified with her, like, because I'm so much more of a lesbian sometimes than a gay man. And I used to do these impressions of her where I would lip sync to her and she loved my impression of her. And it was like super early on when like a comedian you admire, you make them laugh. It is like you can live off of it for 6 months. You know what I mean? Like that is the validation I'm seeking at you know, especially at that stage. But I always say that my comedy North Star is Conan, who is also from Irish guy from outside of Boston. And I've always loved his fusion of smart and silly because it can and it should be both. But as a gay kid, it's really been the women, you know? It's really been the funny divas. Sherry is like watching Sherry get The View, like when she was guest hosting and you're like, she is getting this job. You know what I mean? Like but then watching her do stuff like 30 Rock and it's the greatest, like so inspiring. It was really, you know, Sherry's obviously a comic, but it was a lot of comedic actresses who really informed my sensibility. Lisa Kudrow on The Comeback is something I worship. Molly Shannon in anything she does. I once was in an elevator with Sherry O'Terry and I freaked out and I forgot that I was in a confined space with a very small woman. And she got super nervous, and then she realized that I was in love with her, and she was like, "Oh, okay, it's fine." So my love of a lot of those comedic actresses, really, that's who I want to be.
I think we're very similar in that sense. All those people. Some of them are on my dream guest list. Some of them I've had on the show. But yeah, Sherry, Rosie, certainly, Sherry O'Terry for sure. Yeah, so that's our era of SNL. I think that Molly Shannon, Sherry O'Terry, Anna Gasteyer, Kathy
Did
Griffin.
you watch the
also
Rosie O'Donnell show growing up?
Oh, every day after school. Yeah.
God,
she's like in my top 3 that I want to have on this show. Yeah, she's such an
you're gonna get her.
Inspiration. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just gotta.
And she's a good interview too.
Yeah, she goes deep, which I love. Okay, well, perfect. Yeah, it was always women for me. And Lisa Kudrow, I have that in my notes. We'll get to her later on, but one of my favorites of all time. And I know we share that The Comeback is our favorite show of all time. But we'll bounce between comedy and gay stuff. Now with the North Stars of comedy, I want to know who your earliest celebrity crushes are and your current.
Oh my God, beautiful question. Oh my God. So I will say like just the Justin Timberlake, Rolling Stone, like that was like a repressed crush for sure.
I remember that cover with the veins on his.
Oh my God. I know. And then it got into two, like I was like, oh fuck, how am I supposed to have those abs? And like it was like this, well, it's just this weird thing too of like the dream guy. And then I'm like, wait, do I have to like, it got into some body dysmorphia stuff, but Yeah, so that was definitely an early one. I love Channing Tatum. Wait, I'm blanking on who I love now. Tell me yours while I figure this out.
We might have different types. I'm seeing that you're like a jock, muscle, smooth guy. I like a scruffy guy, a
It's my
rugged guy,
downfall.
like a bro. You like a bro.
I know, isn't it terrible? Okay, so
You can have them.
fair. Well, we won't have to compete. So, okay. So this is a funny story. So I think because, oh God, I attract a lot of bi guys and like guys who like are experimenting and they're like testing the waters and stuff like that. And so there was this guy who's in a rock band who I was hanging out with, and I was like the first guy he'd ever been with, and he was like, oh, he's like, you're kind of more masked than me, and I was like, oh, I guess. And then he was like, you're kind of like a bro. No offense. I was like, it was a very funny thing for a identifying straight man to say to me. And I was like, I didn't know how to take it. And then it was also like, just going back to that 50-50 thing of like, sometimes I can't, I feel like for people, I'm always kind of a little bit too gay or a little bit not gay enough for people. And I just kind of have to go with that. But wait, going back to celebrity crushes, did you say yours? Because I don't think you did.
Growing up, well, I mean, I've always loved like a rugged, scruffy guy. Right now, I love Paul Mescal. I mean, I've always loved John Hamm. Paul Rudd is one of mine. Francois from Heated Rivalry right now. Yeah.
My God, that broke me. I mean, at this point, it's broken everybody. I was part of the mass psychosis of it all. But here's somebody who is good taste. Julia Louis-Dreyfus's son, Charlie Hall. Do you know him?
I'll look him up.
He's
Is he
gonna
an
be
actor?
on. He's gonna be on the next season of The White Lotus. He's really, really goofy and funny, and he's cute. But like, he leads with funny first. But he's a former basketball player, so that is my type. Is I want you to be funny, but maybe have some sports history.
I have a friend who's just like you. I'll recommend him to you.
Wait, are you gonna find me love on this
Yeah,
podcast?
he's always looking for like a basketball or like a tennis player. He's like, I just want a straight guy who wants to explore and maybe become gay with me.
Jesus Christ, that's the world I've been living in. Are you booed up or are you single?
Now I'm partnered, yeah, for almost 2 years. I was married for 8 years and with someone for 12 years, so
I was gonna say you give me stable long-term relationship energy.
yeah, that's my pattern.
You don't seem like you're seeking validation in these streets, which it turns out a lot of us have.
I have had pretty stable long-term relationships, but then we have time, we make room to have fun and explore along the way. Yeah.
Hey, we love that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of your relationships as well, because that's much of your special is dating and relationships and
I
living
know.
with exes and all that. But first, I want to double back to your love of women because I want to go we went from comedy to celebrities. I really want to focus on music now because I loved how you said one way to distinguish you is that whenever you would hear someone say this one's for the ladies, you would always love those songs. And your number one is Mariah. So talk about her influence and who else did you love? Who were your musical inspirations growing up?
You know, I really love that joke because growing up, and I wonder if you got this too, like it was always so bizarre. The misogyny in the culture when it came to female musicians, where it was like discouraged for boys to like art made by women unless it was exclusively because they were hot. And I was just always like, why is it gay to appreciate a female artist? Turns out kind of is, but it shouldn't. Their audience shouldn't be limited to us. You know what I mean? So I was always like so bothered when I would be shamed for listening to girly music, which is a common, I think, gay experience.
That's all I listen to still.
But hello, I don't know if you know the Two Gay Mats. They have a really successful podcast. I'm really close with both of them, and it's a running joke how like they haven't listened to a male artist in decades.
I watch their album reactions sometime.
They're amazing. Love the Two Gay Mats. But yeah, so doing that joke is kind of like I kind of love. There's been so much like healing, not to be like whatever about it, but like healing of gay trauma in comedy, in stand up, and then like having those jokes be celebrated. I think that one might get an applause break in the special. It's just like, oh wait, I was right. It is okay. Those songs do fucking rock. And so, yeah, I mean, so Mariah specifically, and I'm not the first gay man to point this out, but part of the reason that she has such a big gay following is she is such a survivor, and she was crafted by her two gunkles who did photo shoots with her. And she's so over the top and she's so gay, 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 gay. But she's also there's so much in her music about surviving and pushing forward and not giving up and make it happen and all of these inspiring songs and make it through the rain. And like, I heard those songs at like very difficult adolescent moments where like I needed to hear it. And I remember when Mariah was like, after Glitter and, she was like hitting this kind of struggling career-wise, I just remember thinking, Mariah and I are the cool people. Why does nobody get this? Like, because I was at the time having like horrible social trauma in high school and felt like I had no friends. And I was like, I felt this like camaraderie with this woman who was like clearly so much more beautiful and talented than me. But I was like, if she keeps telling me to keep going, I think I could probably do it. And I've always loved Tina Fey when she accepted one of her Emmys. She thanked her parents for giving her confidence disproportionate with her looks and ability. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what happened. That's something that I got to hand to my mom, because my mom made me this delusional person where she's like, no, you can actually do literally anything. And yeah. And so because Mariah and my mom told me, I was like, I guess I can. And now I'm doing this. And it's just like, I'm like, well, I guess I can't stop now. But I think like it was also very complicated because I was very attracted to Mariah. But I think like that messaging totally informed the way that I thought about myself and approached the audacity of doing, whether it's your podcast or any performer. It requires real fucking audacity, and I'm so grateful that people gave that to me.
She's still your number one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm chiller about it now, but like I will fuck up the party if someone says something. Like if I will make it uncomfortable if someone disrespects Mariah Carey. Like, and that's the Boston. You know what I mean? Like I will. Oh, let's get into a fight about this. But I've gotten chiller about it because I'm like, okay, I have my own career. Like it's okay. She's okay. But like I love Mary J. Blige. I love big R&B head, soul music. My brother sent me a tweet once. I don't know if you saw it because it was kind of viral or whatever, but it was like every gay man, I'm going to fuck up the wording, but essentially it was every gay man when he is 13 years old gets assigned a woman in entertainment who he is tasked with supporting, even if it comes at the cost of his own life. Like, it's like, this is kind of weird thing that happened to all of us, which is why it's always so fun, like, to find out who other people's divas are and why. And then sometimes if it's somebody that Mariah's had a bad relationship with, that affects my relationship with the person. But let me just say, we knew Nicki Minaj was trash a long time ago, and everyone else is just catching up now.
Mariah knew first.
That's right.
No, I agree. Yeah, most of these books behind me are memoirs, and most of them are female memoirs. And right in front of me, I'll move my camera, are like some of my favorites, and I have to show you because who's there?
Oh my god! Meaning of Mariah.
Nina, Cher, Anita Franco, Sinead O'Connor, and then some comedians.
Oh my god! Hello, Molly.
Such a good book. Jeff Hiller. Who else? Yeah, all these people. Casey Wilson. Yeah. And
I can't believe you're bringing this up. Oh my god, such good taste. I basically all I read are memoirs, and I love memoirs. I love listening to the audiobook because I love hearing it out of their mouths, like particularly like Meaning of Mariah, like, and that was during like peak COVID, and I was like that book like came as a gift when we needed something to do, and I was like, and listening to Molly Shannon talk about her childhood, and right now I'm listening to Lena Dunham's new book.
Me too. I'm halfway through.
It's like, I'm halfway through too. And you know what? Like, I love that feeling of being halfway through a book that you're like all about. And you're like, I have so much left. Let's add her to the list of people who inspire me because I had forgotten because it had been a while since I had gotten anything from her, that her writing is so, I don't even know how to describe the rhythm of her comedy, but like there's a scene in there are so many scenes in Girls where I was like, I didn't know anybody could do that. Like when she tries to sleep with her boss who doesn't want to sleep with her, and she's like, I know we've both been wanting this. Like, I think what I identify in her is I love jokes where I don't get it. Like, I'm the person who doesn't get it. You know what I mean? Like, and like stretching how did you possibly think? And that's what that Hannah Horvath character does a lot. And it turns out Lena does in real life, where it's like oh, you're well-meaning, but you are so off here. And I always like putting myself in those situations because there's a lot to play with.
Again, just those female-driven awkward comedies are among my favorites. Yeah, I think of Girls. I think of The Comeback for sure. Getting On with Laurie Metcalf and Niecy Nash.
We have very similar taste.
Yes. So Did you go to comedy shows growing up, or anyone that sticks out that you saw live that you're like, "Wow, I wanna do that"?
That is a beautiful question. So no, initially, so part of why I got a late start to stand up was I did not think I belonged in that space because stand up was so straight white male dominated for so long. And then leave it to the lesbians and the black ladies to kick down the door and show me, oh wait, we get to go here too. Judy Gold's aggressive gayness was a revelation for me because I was like, oh wait, I have that personality, that aggression too. And it's so like, just being so overt about it. And I remember like in college going to a shitty stand-up show because some friend brought me to it. And like immediately the straight white comedian on stage was doing crowd work talking about how I was the obvious gay person there. And I was like, all right, well, I didn't realize it started the second I sat down. Okay. And so for years, I didn't do crowd work because I didn't want to put anybody in. I wouldn't be mean, but I didn't want to put anybody in that position. But that was like a very direct, overt sign, like I don't belong in here. So because I grew up watching these women play these hilarious characters, I really thought I was supposed to do sketch and character work, and that's what I started in. And then stand up drew me in, and because I'm funniest as myself, and you get really used to calling all the shots. Stand up is a very rare art where like, no, literally everything I say is written by me and up to me. It's funny, like even when I do other people's podcasts, I'm like, oh, I'm not in charge. Remember, you're not in charge. Like, I did not think I was going to grow up to be a stand-up comedian, but I knew I was going to be in comedy. And then it was in my 20s that it just really gelled and like sucked me in. And then it wasn't until I was in a green room with a bunch of other comedians that it was the first time where I didn't feel like an alien, like I did in Boston and like I did in other spaces. I was like, there are other people like me. And it's like, so my comedian friendships are really special in that way because it went from being this thing where I wasn't allowed or welcome, and then it ended up being this place where it's like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is what and there's something so great about, you brought up being 10 years into stand-up, and it's like, the beginning is awful. It's you have to bomb. You don't know what you're doing. The beginning there's nerves, but now it's like, one of my favorite things about getting older, and we talk about this with my therapist, is I really like the feeling of being experienced at something and being good at something. It's a different feeling than having a talent, because it's the however many thousand hours until you get really good at something. Like, I don't get nervous anymore because I'm like, I got this. And it's going to be fun, and I'm going to take care of these people, and this is something that I can contribute. Can I tell you a quick crowd work story?
First, I want to ask you a question about crowd work, because in the
Okay.
last 10 years since you started, it's sort of taken over and there's pressure to do crowd work and have big social media presence, which you have. But you said you didn't start doing crowd work and you worked your way up to that. Do you feel pressure now to do it, or does it come naturally and you enjoy it?
You ask really good questions. So, because this is a big topic in comedy, and the TikTok of it all really changed how stand-up comedy works and how rooms get booked and how clubs get booked. And to me, I always see that type of change as opportunity, but I also know what type of comic I am. So I felt pressure to have clips and, do the social media of it all, but I felt like I can always trust my instincts when I'm like, everybody's doing something. That is not my personality. When everybody's doing something, I'm like, why? And then I'm suspicious of it. But I wasn't somebody who was like judgy about it. Like, if somebody else wants to, here's the thing about me is I want to do my jokes. Like, I want to do like, I have things to say. I don't care about the people in the audience. I care about what I want to say and making them laugh. And also, a compliment that I've gotten before is that I don't waste the audience's time. My jokes are tight. And if they're not, we get them there, because I hate that feeling of like, get to the fucking point. I hate self-indulgent comedy where we have to watch them fucking fumble with their phone or all of that shit. And also, you don't know what you're going to get in the crowd. A lot of people in the audience aren't interesting. So then it's just more work. What do? I don't care what you do. So everyone was doing it. But what happens is you get comfortable enough to fuck around a little bit. And then what happens too is, and this is the story I was going to tell you anyway, it sometimes is the best way to warm up an icy room. And, because when if you're going to go up next and they're not giving it up for a comedian who kills all the time and is funny, that's an audience problem. That's not a comedian problem. So I know before I go on stage, I've been given a heads up that they're being weird. And this happened when I did a Valentine's Day show at the Hollywood Improv last year. It was right after the fires, and it was so right after the fires that the show had been postponed because the night that it was originally supposed to happen, I ended up having to evacuate, and a lot of other people did. So it was like a weird time in LA. But I'm like, it's a sold-out Valentine's Day show at the Improv. Like, this is date night. Like, this should be a cakewalk. But I'm sitting backstage with the other comics, and I'm like, it's not. So I know that I can't just go out and do material, but I had a really funny fires joke. So the fires joke was about, it's really stupid, but the gist of it was that let's give it up for the first responders. Let's give it up for the city coming together. And essentially the joke is that I've been going to different firehouses to see if anybody needs a hand or a mouth. And so it's Rory's blowing the first responders joke right after the fires, like coming from a town like Boston, like, give it up for the hometown should always win. That's not the comedian's problem if it doesn't. And right after a traumatic experience, you would think we can come together on this, and nothing. And I was like, I could have just gone into material, and I was pissed at them. I was like, are you guys gonna just pretend? I was like, are you guys comatose? Are you gonna just pretend we didn't all live through this? I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? And then people sort of warmed up a little bit, and then I go to the crowd. And when you're on stage, you can really only see the front row. Very pretty blonde lady right in front of me. I say, well, where did you live? Where do you live? Like, did you not hear about the fires? And this woman in a very soft voice says, Palisades. And I'm like, fuck. Because I was like, and the audience felt it too. But I was like, okay. And so I doubled down and I was like, well, yeah, then like, what the fuck? And then the rest of the audience was like, oh, we are kind of being assholes for not like this lady's house probably burned down. We should probably give a round of applause for the firefighters. I pretend to storm off the stage because I hate everybody. And then we're back. And then we get going and the rest of the night, the other comics did great, and it was just like the ice had to be broken with like a blowtorch, and that's something that I wouldn't have known how to do even a few years ago, But that's what I always say: don't go to the crowd because you don't have jokes. Go to the crowd when it's needed. Or, comment on something. Remind everybody that we're in a room together. They're not watching me on a screen. We're having a shared experience. That's a good reason to go to the crowd. But it is not. Material is always preferable.
Yeah, I think some comics, that's sort of their strong suit, like a Jessica Kirson, but it shouldn't be a requirement for comics.
Well, but Jessica's also really like a great comic, so it's like seeing her do crowd work is a joy,
Yeah, she's a rarity. She's a special one. Let's get to your special, Acquired Taste. As you said, it's available on all streaming platforms. I watched it on Amazon. How have you always considered yourself or been told that you're an acquired taste?
This is also something that's coming up in therapy. Yes. I knew that needed to be the name of the special because that joke about me being an acquired taste was one of the first jokes, like when you're starting in comedy and like you get ha-has and some stuff's okay, but then there's some stuff that just works every fucking time. And what I loved about it was it came out of a place where I was writing about how I was frustrated that I had all of these contradictions that made it hard to write stand-up about. That, going back to that, I know what you're thinking stuff. I was like, I'm this and I'm that, and I'm this and I'm that. And I was like, it's sort of like a Long Island iced tea, like where they just fucking pour everything in there. Like that's my personality. And my ex, the most serious relationship I've ever had, we lived together for a really long time and then broke up and kept living together. But he's an actor and he would, I noticed in our dynamic, it was sitcom-esque. We were doing bits around the house and the bits were always centered around how he was reluctantly hanging out with me. Or I wouldn't shut the fuck up. Or I'm so loud, so fucking loud. I kind of seem like a fuckboy, but everyone's mom likes me. At first, it's going to be strong, but there's something there. And that is how I have always felt. It's also why I'm not for everybody. I think doing stand-up complicates dating because, like, you meet me and then you go to my Instagram and I got these jokes about blowing firefighters and you're like, Jesus Christ. Like, so when I'm dating or when I'm on stage, I'm like, I know I'm not for everybody and this is a lot, but I have redeemable traits.
Do you lead with that when you're dating, that you are a comedian and sort of everything is on the table? Because a lot of your act is about dating and your experiences with people.
Well, yes. And it's very funny because people always think I'm writing jokes about them. And I'm like, don't flatter yourself. Like, was that one about me? But that being said, I always say the greatest gift you can give me is a contribution to my act. So there are guys I've dated or hooked up with who are like very proud to be like the guy. I have a whole bit about this Marine I was hooking up with, and he's like stationed across the world, and he's like, yeah, send me the link to that. Am I in that? Like, is this so like some people get a kick out of it, but then like it absolutely, I'm sure, scares more people off than I even realize. But the thing is that like Matt Palmer from Two Gay Mats always says this. It's like, well, if we just hold it back, they're gonna be exposed to it anyway. And ultimately, like a guy who doesn't think the me blowing firefighters joke is funny, like, isn't gonna be for me anyway. If you're tickled by the comedy, it's a green light, but it's perfectly understood if I and it are not for you. And it's kind of cool to be in a place in my life where like I'm good with that,
Yeah, and you seem to be very self-aware, and I'm curious how your comedy has evolved over the last 10 years, because your current special starts with you talking about getting a colonoscopy and bleeding from your ass, and then going into how you're mostly a top and not bottoming since pre-pandemic. So has that always been your realm into comedy, as far as just laying everything out on the table, or has it taken years to be that vulnerable and share, all of your adventures on
Thank you for
stage?
noticing that. Ultimately, I think I had role models. Jackie Cation and Laurie Kilmartin are two comedians I really look up to a lot, and they have a podcast called The Jackie and Laurie Show. And I've learned so much about it's essentially a show, a podcast about stand-up comedy for comedians. And it's like I feel like it was my comedy college, and all of my influences. It was always like, not only write about what don't hide on stage. Like so that's why like the talking so explicitly about gay stuff has been so healing. Essentially what I was taught was there is no other choice than full honesty in comedy. It will hurt the material. And also the people who I looked up to were so authentic, and that's why I liked them so much. So to me, there was no alternative. Also, like I started to realize like sometimes I get self-conscious that I don't want to be pigeonholed as like, oh, the slutty gay comic, or he's another one about his hookups or whatever. But like, I don't know, you kind of like that aspect of my life has yielded a lot of funny shit. And also it's kind of allowed me to approach it with a sense of humor. I mean, there was a period where because I wasn't looking for a relationship, I was like, that's kind of what I can get out of it. Like essentially not taking men seriously enough. So the comedy from that came really naturally. And so I think my belief is you have to lay it all out there. And again, doing so healed a lot of trauma that I didn't know I had to heal.
Yeah, you're clearly very passionate about the process and crafting an actual joke. You talk about writing a lot. So what is your process? Is it writing freehand? Is it voice notes? And how long does it typically take you to hone a joke, on stage before you think that's perfected?
Awesome questions. So I have learned that writing, because like everybody, I stopped writing anything by hand for a long time. But I learned through, are you familiar with the artist's way? Like that process, that like there actually is something that happens to your brain when you slow it down enough to write it out. That like whenever I'm having trouble with a joke that I can't figure out, that usually helps me find the punchline. Or sometimes I write backwards where I have a punchline and I'm like, I don't know how to set it up. So there is some handwriting going on. I always joke with my comedian friends, like my confidence and my feelings about myself are entirely rooted in, do I have a new joke? Did I write a new joke today? So because when I don't have any new material, I'm like, I fucking hate myself. I want to kill myself. And then when I have a new joke, I'm like, I am the next thing in comedy. Like I am like, so But like, there was a concern obviously after I taped the special. Luckily it took for fucking ever to get it distributed and put out. But like, it's that feeling of, oh no, all my jokes are there now. I have to write a bunch of new ones. But it was a really great opportunity. And I looked at my special and I was like, I'm really proud of that, but I don't want to be just that. So I really wanted to challenge myself to be like, let's talk about some other stuff. I went into therapy. Like I told my therapist, I was like, I am going to be writing about this. I immediately started doing material for him until we had to remember that that's not the point, but I still accidentally do it sometimes because I just want him to laugh and like me. So like, I think having talked so much about dating and sex, I'm like, therapy and introspection is a very interesting topic. And so that's something that I'm talking about more right now. I'm talking about my little old lady neighbor. I'm talking about, I don't know, I think just what's driving me writing wise right now is wanting to be a well-rounded comic and wanting to be a more interesting, a layered comic. And so that it's not just one thing, even though dick jokes are my sweet spot. So they will continue.
That sort of leads me back to the dating portion of this conversation. You mentioned that you lived with one of your exes for many years. You also have explored hookups and threesomes and group stuff and how you don't really like that. What is your goal right now? Finding a boyfriend, finding a husband, continuing just the single life?
Oh my God, you're asking so many questions that are like very relevant to this moment in my life and that I don't know how you would have known. But yeah, so I had a long-term relationship with somebody who's kind of gamous, and that was kind of exciting. And he was 15 years older than me. He is. And I was 21 and he was in his mid-30s. And I was like, well, that's what a real man is like. Like the guys at my age, I was like, we're not doing it. And I was like, no, he's established, he's confident. And so I learned a lot in that relationship that had a huge age gap. But then the age gap kind of caught up to us because he was so much more further along in his development. And when that relationship ended, I realized I had a lot of exploring to do. I was somebody who was like, sex has to have meaning. And like, I was so different. And then we break up and I'm like 25 and I'm like, Grindr is just I'm like, what the fuck? And then, and I do think that like, I think along the line too, I started there was a lot of disappointing relationships with men where I was just like, I don't think they're a good investment. Like I'm unfortunately attracted to this gender, but I can't find one that like is worth like really committing to. So let me not take them that seriously. And then, I got a lot of material out of it, and it is an adventure to meet somebody on an app and be like, do you want to get a drink and see what happens after? And then suddenly like it's exciting and all this stuff. But also as somebody who is into their 30s, like there's a part of me that's like, do I got to do all this shit myself again? Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, like it's all on me. I get so jealous of the dual income, no kids couples. I'm like, fuck. So we could be doing so much more. But at the same time, I value my autonomy, and I'm not the type of person that gets into a relationship because they need to be in a relationship. And I've seen a lot of that, and that doesn't work for me. I'm like all in, and this does come out in my material where I'm like either completely obsessed with somebody or I'm good. But so here's the thing though, is I'm also, I forgot about this for a little while, but I'm a sweet romantic softie too. Like I'm lovey-dovey, and I like, when I'm into somebody, I'm like all obsessed with them. And at a certain point I started to realize, I was like, well, that's kind of a shame that side of me is like going to waste. Like it feels like I don't have that outlet. And I was like, that seems like a shame. Like, and so we are at an inflection point in my dating period where I think I almost in the last couple of weeks did admit to my therapist that but it's hard because it's like, I don't want to date like somebody who's filling a job vacancy, like where you're just interviewing candidates and then, okay, you're good enough. Like I need the spark, I need the magic. But at the same time, like usually things don't get accomplished if you don't approach them with some intention. So we're workshopping this, and I'm open to your advice.
When was your last relationship? Serious?
The one I just told you about, that when we broke up in 2013.
Okay. So 13 years. 13 years.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Well, maybe it's 12 and a half. But the point is it's been a while. That's the other thing too, is that
you want to give your age?
Yeah, I'm 37.
Okay. All right. So maybe, yeah, now it's time. Now you're in a new era. You changed so much from your 20s and 30s.
Totally. And that's the thing. That's the thing too, is that it's been so long that it's almost like worth the experiment of like, well, what am I like in a relationship now? Because I bet I'm a lot better. Like I'm so much more secure with myself. I'm so much less jealous. Like not that I was like a crazy jealous person or whatever, but like I would be open to like various formations of a relationship. So I'm chill. I'm a lot more chill than I was. Yeah.
Yeah, go with the flow. All right. In our last few minutes, let's talk about your podcast. I'm super excited. It's been around since 2018, long time going. So, what can people expect? I listened to the most recent episode, which will lead me to the next question. But tell me about the podcast.
Yeah, so I'm the only comedian with a podcast. But I have been doing it for a while, and as you know, it's a fucking grind. When did you start the show?
Almost a year ago, so
Okay.
not that long.
Well,
Yeah.
you have very impressive guests, and it's a very impressive program. But
Thank you.
it was like it was kind of like earlier days of podcasting when I started it, but like I needed the outlet. It's not the same as stage time, but like I've gotten a lot of material and stuff out of it. It's a great exercise to fill an hour. You know what I mean? Like that is a muscle, you know? And yeah, like sometimes it's like, oh my God, I have to do another episode already. I have to do another episode already. And then, but I'm so committed to it, and the people that listen to it, it's like once you're in people's rotation, it's a special place to be because they want to know what's up with you, you know. And so, but what happens, and I wonder if this happens to you too, is that like I forget what I said on the podcast, so people are like, "Oh, you already told me that," and I'm like, "No, I didn't," or like whatever, or people will know things about me that I didn't tell them, and that happens too with my act, and I'm like, okay. But yeah, I love doing the podcast, and I'm going to keep doing the podcast. But yeah, there is sort of a flex once you've been doing it for a while. You're like, all right, everybody does have a podcast, but not everybody sticks with it.
No, and you have 8 years of material that is all logged and recorded. So I think looking back, it's going to be appreciated. That's what I'm looking forward to. Like listening to these years and years ago, like, oh wow, that was a cool conversation. It's documented.
Well, that totally, especially when you have cool guests on, you know, and you're like, you know, you can go back to your chat with Sherry or whoever, and like, yeah, I think it is special for it to be recorded, and it brings out, like, I've had conversations with comics that we wouldn't have in another context or another space. So it's a grind, but yeah, it's awesome.
And the title's appropriate. I'm super excited because you seem like a very excited person in general.
Yeah, it's been so long since I came up with that title, but originally the premise of the show was for people to come on and talk about what they're super excited about, because I think people are at their best when they're talking about the things that they love. I mean, we've been doing it in this episode. It's like you get that raw, like that Rosie O'Donnell fan energy. You know what I mean? Like that, like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing in the world. I have to tell everyone about it. Like, I love getting that version of everybody with whatever it is that they want to talk about. The show then became more about topical stuff that I wanted to talk about. And this is why I'm not a journalist, Kyle, is that it always goes back to me.
Well, one thing that we're both super excited about, which is the episode that I just listened to with you, is you were talking about our favorite show of all time, The Comeback. So what are you thinking of this final third season, 21 years after the original?
You know, I feel like it's a gift from whatever higher power, the god that is Lisa Kudrow. Like, the fact that I met Valerie Cherish when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Like, and I was one of those people that was like, this is the greatest thing. What's wrong with you people? Again, like, that's so my energy. And then the devastation of it not getting a second season, but the joy of everybody finding it over 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, and how social media propelled that, and then, you know, I was in a completely different space in my life when the second season premiered to catch up with Valerie in that time. And then when it was announced, I had a positive psychotic episode when they announced this season last year, because it was like, it again, like fires and traumas and shit like that, and it just felt like 2024 and 2025 was like fucked up news wise, and so I was like, wait, there's good news, we have a good thing. And so what I've been trying to do with this season is like savor it, cherish the time. I go into Valerie all day long. Well, that's all right, dear. That's the thing too, is that the Valerie's been in me the whole time, because I've been doing all gay guys who like The Comeback. We've been doing Valerie impressions all along. So it's weird. It's like, oh, but you've always been with us. But also, like, no, I'm like, okay, if this is the final season, like, just soak it in. Like, I'm not binging. I'm not like, I'm like watching every episode several times. Like, I watch The Comeback like there's going to be a test. Like, it's like, and so, and just like soaking in it, because knowing how special it is, you know?
She's just the best. She's so brilliant. Yeah, it takes many watches because you discover new stuff every time, nuances. And the fact that she writes every word of that, it's not improv. She's a genius. I'm so excited that it's back. All right, we're rounding this out. I always ask my guests this show, The Tangle, what are you currently tangled in that you're loving, immersing yourself in, binge watching, reading, anything activity that you love? And then what's something frustrating that you're working to get untangled from right now?
Okay, well, I'm completely tangled in the comeback and Lena Dunham's new book and my new material. Sometimes I feel like I'm a boring person because it's really always about like just comedy and comedy and comedy. But something I'm working to get untangled, I would say, is well, I am in therapy, and so there's a lot, and it's funny. It's funny because I was kind of embarrassed by how long I waited to go into therapy because I was like, no, somebody by my age should have been. This should have been done already. But I just wasn't raised in a place where people were doing it, but I was never judgy about it. And then I'm just so fascinated by how much once I started talking came out. So tangles that I didn't know I had, like hangups from my past. Like, at a certain point, I realized like every performer is reaching some sort of new level of validation. And like it was in therapy that I was like, at what point am I validated though? It might be now. I think we can be validated now. And so I think like, definitely like hangups from and full circle from what you started with, like the homophobia that was entrenched in Boston and the culture in the world when I was growing up. Like there's still work there, and my love life, because I think I've decided that I should have a super cute boyfriend. Like, where's that guy?
He's coming. He's coming. So any breakthroughs in therapy? Are you a crier?
Well, that's one of my gay traumas is crying in front of people is mortifying for me. And I have not cried in therapy yet, but it has been in the back of my mind. I'm like, when is it going to happen? And how am I going to feel about it? But like, something that I have been untangling is like, that's stupid shame. Like, that's really dumb to feel that way. But, I had a dad who cringed when when any male cried in any situation. So it's like, I know where that comes from, But I mean, you're allowed to cry in therapy. Jesus Christ. Like, so yeah, I think I'm working on not having shame about that. That's something.
Can you tap into those emotions by yourself? I mean, because I don't cry much at all, even like alone. I would like to.
It's interesting that you say that because one of the things that got me into therapy was a friend who said you can only do so much healing on your own. And I was like, well, that makes sense. But it's interesting because if I do cry when I'm alone, I don't feel bad about it because nobody saw it. But also, like, there is a part of my personality that's like, there's a fight. And so I don't really get like depressed. I get pissed. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and so like, but like something that another thing I'm working on untangling is like, there are certain emotions I've not allowed myself to feel because I just don't. I'm like, those aren't on the menu. I'll pick another one, and I want to. It's not healthy to push that away because I'm really good at dissociating, and so I think like, yeah, like leaving space for that. I mean, it makes so much sense why crying is healthy because it is such a release, and I'm like, if that shit's not getting released, then where is it going? Is it inflammation? Is it tension? Is it more trauma? So I think I'm pro crying. I just have to figure out how to be better about it myself.
You'll get there. You had the laughs. You'll get the tears eventually. This has been so fun, Rory. Are you going to be hitting the road at all this year? Do you tour much? I know you do a
Yes.
lot in LA.
Yes, in support of the special. So I'm headlining the Boston Comedy Studio on July 11th. You guys better come out and fill those seats because it would be so D-list and so Valerie Cherish. Well, finally got to Boston and no one's here. That's all right, dear. Like, but that woman, like all of those D-list moments in my career, like, because comedians go through it constantly. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I got to fill this room. Like, it's always such a grind. And Valerie gave me a tool to like, of what to do with that. Like, and because it's like, oh, if it happens to Valerie, then it's going to happen to me. Well, that's, fill the seats, invite more people. That'll be fine. We'll get it. And so like that is in my head as I am taking on these challenges. But yes, Boston Comedy Studio, July 11th. You guys better come out.
Awesome. Thank you, Dory. This has been such a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time.
I had so much fun. You asked so many good questions. Your skin looks amazing, and I feel like we could be friends.
Thank you, Worry. Make sure to follow him wherever you can. Instagram, he posts a lot. He's on TikTok. And you can also check out his special Acquired Taste on streaming platforms, including Amazon. And make sure to check out his podcast. Now, Tangled in Song. What song am I tangled in this week? I'm actually going to dive into a current song. We're not taking it back to the 90s. We're not doubling back years past. I have fallen in love with this song by an artist called Meek, and she's getting a lot of traction overseas. She just performed on SNL UK, and I think she's going to hit it big here as well because her song Fabulous is endlessly catchy and fabulous, to say the least. I saw a clip a couple days ago because she was on Fallon, and she caught my eye as I was scrolling on social media, and I was like, what is this? This is fun. And so I went and did a deep dive on her as much as I could find. She's a newer artist. She was a songwriter. She's a songwriter, but she, I think, started her career getting signed as a songwriter specifically and wrote for others. And now she's doing it on her own. So I went on, iTunes and got all the music that I can find of hers, just a handful of songs, but they are all super catchy. And I'm really just excited to see if she blows up here. I think she deserves to. I hope she gets a huge following all over the world. I am calling Fabulous right now. I think it's going to be the song of the summer. So give it a listen if you can. It's going to make you want to get up out of your seat. It's going to make you want to dance, roll the windows down, and just feel fabulous. All right, my friends, we have a fabulous guest coming up next week, a dream guest of mine. I will give it to you right now because I just recorded it a couple hours ago. I spoke with the inspiring, game-changing, ever-dynamic, ever-educational Dan Savage. Do I need to say more? So many of us have been inspired and influenced and encouraged by him over the years, and it was one of those interviews where, I'll be honest, I was pretty intimidated. He's 61 now, and he's been in the public eye for decades, and there's so much to cull from, and he's done more than 1,000 episodes of his podcast. It was a lot to draw from. What was I going to ask? So you'll find out what I did next week. Until then, I hope you all take care of yourselves. I will see and speak with you soon.